Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. You guys, I have been feeling so much better lately. Like, truly so much better. I want to say that this is the best I've been feeling since before 2020. Like, honestly, I'm talking like I have so much more energy. My moods, I'm not dealing with the same consistent low moods that I once was. I'm not dealing with the lack of motivation. Like, I am just feeling so much better. And I have been doing so much intentional inner work to get to this place. So I'm sure that there is a lot at play here. But what I really want to focus on for this episode is specifically the process of building trust and confidence from within, right? Like confidence that is completely separate from what you look like. I want to talk about this inner glow up that has been taking place that I really do believe is contributing to how great I'm feeling now. Like I said, I think that there's a lot at play here, but I have been feeling a lot better, and I think it is worth diving into this topic a little bit more. I believe that the process of building trust with yourself, with your intuition, building true inner confidence that is completely separate from any form of external validation. I believe that this is built from showing up for yourself again and again and again and again. And I was writing down a few different categories or different ways that I have been showing up for myself consistently. And I want to talk through or share what I believe has played a role in this inner glow up that we're talking about. Okay, number one, building trust within my own intuition and building trust within myself, because I think they kind of go hand in hand. When you learn to trust your intuition, you really start to trust yourself. Or maybe it was a little bit backwards for me. I really did trust myself a lot in the beginning, and that helped me to trust my intuition. Okay, chicken and the egg, I'm not sure. But they go hand in hand. And I believe that building this muscle, like building this trust within yourself, can be achieved through the repeated process of acting on your intuition and seeing the outcome. I have many examples of this. Clearly, I've been focused on living by my intuition for the past almost 2 years now, I want to say, at this point. So I have a ton of examples of this, right? Like a spectrum ranging from acting on my intuition when my intuition was telling me to do something that was very low risk, right? Sign up for somatic hypnotherapy. Try that out. Not a whole lot of risk involved in that. Going to see an astrologer and do a session there. Pretty low risk as well. And then there have also been times throughout my life in my intuition. I mean, if you listen to my first episode, we all know my intuition said, quit your job. That was probably the biggest leap of faith I've taken yet, but it was not the first. When I want to say it was like my first or second job fresh out of college. So the job that I had prior to this large tech company that I worked at for the last 4 years, I was working at an agency that made me absolutely miserable. That sounds so bad. Okay, like I wasn't happy there. I did learn a lot, so I don't want to just like completely bash that company, but I really just like was not doing well mentally after like a year and a half of being there. And I remember wanting to leave, and I had started interviewing for other jobs, but I didn't have a whole lot of energy to commit to the interviewing process. So there was one day I was sitting on the train riding into work, and I just thought to myself, I'm gonna quit my job today. Like, I had rent to pay. I mean, I was completely single at the time, only responsible for myself, but I did have rent to pay. I did have bills to pay. I didn't have a ton of savings to my name, But as I was sitting on that train, I thought to myself, I know that I can figure this out. I know wholeheartedly that if I go and quit my job today, that I have options, that I have the ability to figure this out. And so I did. I literally walked up to the office that day and I asked my boss to step aside and I gave my notice. And at that company, it was like a same day situation. It was like not a 2-week thing. It was like, you're quitting, pack up your bags, and like you're leaving that day. So I did that. And then I went home and I called my mom and I was like, I don't know what I just did, but I'm gonna figure this out. And I did. And then I landed the job at this tech company 1 month later, which literally doubled my salary. Doubled it. And then, working at a larger tech company continued to increase very rapidly. Not too long after leaving that job, I made the decision to walk away from a 5-year relationship. And that was incredibly challenging. And I look back on that girl and she was brave. That girl, she was brave. And she took a leap of faith. And after walking away from that relationship, it was not long after that I met my husband. So these are all examples of taking leaps of faith, of being brave, of making decisions that I felt were right for myself and seeing the outcome. Meeting my husband, doubling my salary. Like, these decisions all gave me the courage to make the really big decision to walk away from my job almost a year ago. And although it's not the first time I walked away from a job, it is the first time that I walked away from a 10-year career. It is different in that I have a family to care for this time, right? That was a very different financial choice than it was the first time around. But this consistent pattern of making choices that aligned with self-love, that has worked out for me. And this repeated process of following my intuition, seeing the outcome, it has really, really helped me to build trust in my ability to make decisions, helped me to build trust in my gut, what I'm feeling, my intuition, and also just helped me to build trust in my own ability to figure things out, no matter what the circumstances are. And that is so key in obtaining inner confidence, because it's not always about having the perfect circumstances. It's about knowing and trusting yourself to figure it out no matter what the circumstances are. Okay, number 2, living intentionally, or living with intention. This has been a big shift I've made over the last year. If you listen to my most recent podcast episode where I talk about building structure back into my life with intention, with a focus on building habits and routines that align with my dream life, that is about living with intention. I used to operate from a much more passive place. Like I talked about in my last episode, I was given the structure and I was doing my best to sort of operate within that, always focused on the number of tasks that I had and trying to complete everything. And I think that I was always striving to get to the end of my to-do list because I thought that's where peace existed. It turns out what has brought me more inner peace is building systems into my life that align with the version of myself that I aspire to be. It has been building systems back into my life that prioritize well-being and joy. When I talk about living with intention, I will also bucket into that the process of taking care of myself. This has been something that I've really started to do, I'd say, over the last 3 or 4 months, as I have completely overhauled the way that I eat and actually implemented a consistent workout routine into my life. I mean, in addition to all of the additional inner healing work that I've been doing, what's been really interesting to me and something that I've only started to experience over the last few weeks is after doing so much inner work, I've gotten to a place where I'm now starting to feel the natural urge to take care of the external as well. It's like, all of a sudden I want to go get my nails done and I want to go get my eyebrows done and I want to wear clothes that are not just leggings and sweatshirts. And I found myself taking better care of my belongings, my stuff. Like that one really surprised me. It was like all of this, no, what do they say? So within, so without. Starting with the inner work has led to this natural progression of taking care of the exterior as well. I always thought that it was the other way around. I always thought maybe if I just find the most perfect outfit that I feel good in, that then I will feel confident, then I will feel good. No, turns out start within and it will naturally start to be reflected in your external reality as well. So when I talk about living intentionally, it has been this process of really taking care of myself and being really intentional about how I spend my time. And that has absolutely played a role in the level of confidence that I feel on a regular basis. Number 3, or should I say number 3, honoring my voice and choosing to speak my truth. Okay, so if you've listened to the podcast, I had a whole episode talking about my throat chakra. This has been a huge theme for me and one of the big reasons that I show up to this podcast. It is this practice of speaking my truth. But I want to talk about some unexpected or some ways that this practice has surprised me and I think played a role in building my confidence in unexpected ways. Number 1, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it is like ancestral trauma, ancestral something, ancestral baggage. I don't really know, but I feel like I used to walk around with so much shame for everything. Everything about myself. I felt like there was a level of shame about what I looked like, shame about the way that I dressed, shame about the way that I spoke, how I had, insecurities about my inability to articulate my thoughts and my ability to communicate. There was just so much about me and the path that I walked that I carried shame about. And I haven't gotten to deconstructing all of that, but one of the really interesting things about this practice of speaking my truth is that so much of that has just naturally dissipated. Like I find myself not being embarrassed about things that the old version of me would have been embarrassed about. I find myself more freely talking about topics that would have made me uncomfortable in the past. I don't know the mechanism behind what is taking place here. I just know that when I started to speak my truth, I stopped feeling shame about who I am. And that has been I could cry. I could cry right now. I'm gonna like hold that back. But that has been so freeing. Okay, I'm back. Had to stop the tears because I'm wearing eyeliner, you guys. It's important. Okay, another really interesting part about this podcast specifically, and one way that this has unexpectedly helped to build my confidence. So I sit down and I film this podcast and then I edit it. And I film this podcast, if you're listening on audio, I also film this podcast on video. So when I sit and edit, I'm seeing myself, I'm hearing myself. And what has been really interesting about the editing process and how that has actually been the most healing part for me. I mean, okay, I won't say it's the most healing part. I just said that speaking my truth has been very, very healing, but an unexpectedly really healing part about editing myself has been that I started to love the girl that was making mistakes too. And what I mean by that is I feel like I've always had this tendency towards perfectionism, and in a very unproductive way. I mean, I think perfectionism is unproductive in general, but when I would first start to film this podcast, there would be times where I would say something and then I wouldn't like how I said it, or I was like, oh, I could choose better words. And so I would go back and I would refilm it again. Or, like, if you've listened to this podcast and you know that I butcher words all the time, or I mesh them together, whatever. And so I would go back and I would edit those clips. And what's interesting is in those moments where I would make mistakes, it was like I would see myself smile or I would see myself laugh through the mistake. And I was like, oh my God, I love that girl too. I used to want to hide that girl. Ah. I used to want to hide that girl that made mistakes. And now when I see that girl on video, when I see that version of myself that made mistakes, I'm like, she's real. She's a real girl. She made mistakes. And when she smiled, it was like there was this light. So what's interesting is I find that translating to everyday conversation, whereas normally when I'm sitting talking to a group of people and I'm unable to articulate my thoughts, or I'm not communicating something the way that I would like to, or I'm mixing up my words, whatever, I don't get embarrassed in that moment anymore when I'm out having conversation with people. I'm just like, oh, that's okay. I made a mistake and I'm just gonna keep going because who cares? And actually, the way that I was making those mistakes out in my head to be way bigger than when I was actually watching them back on tape. It was such a small thing that you could just breeze by. So anyways, that has been just in general, this podcast, speaking my truth, the editing process, that has all been so healing to me in ways that I completely did not intend or expect. And I'm so grateful for that. And so I will just say, like, honoring the process of honoring your voice and speaking your truth, that builds inner confidence. Okay, and the last way, the fourth way that I've been building trust and confidence from within has been the process of learning to sit with discomfort. Because everything that I have mentioned within this podcast has required two things: growth, and by growth, I mean pushing the edge of my comfort zone, and it has required discipline. And let me tell you, growth and discipline can be very uncomfortable. I used to spend a lot of time waiting to be ready for something. And I feel like I really took a lot of my power back when I realized that I could do something before feeling ready if I could just learn to sit with the discomfort of that. If I could, or this process of, because I want to say if I could, but I did, this process of learning to sit with the physical sensations of discomfort and realizing that it can't hurt you as deep as you think it can. You take so much of your power back when you learn to do that. So learning to sit with the physical sensations of your emotions and discomfort is so powerful in building your confidence in your ability to do anything, in your ability to try something new, because that's uncomfortable, in your ability to do something that you don't know how to do because that's uncomfortable, in your ability to be seen trying, that's uncomfortable. Once you learn to sit with the discomfort, you stop letting it stop you. And that is where real inner confidence comes from. So, I feel exhausted from crying in this episode. Oh my gosh. But we made it. We got through the end. I hope that you were able to take away something from that. And tears aside, I swear I've been feeling so much better. And I can attribute so much of that to a lot of these things that we just spoke about. So, once again, or as always, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And I will see you again soon. Bye.